Going today, guys. My name is Paul Smith with 12 Rivers Realty, and you're tuning into the 12 at 12. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. Obviously, we're almost through with, or I guess we're halfway through November. Thanksgiving's coming around the corner. We've got Christmas coming up, kind of all the things that happen with that. Just looking at the headlines today, it looks like Warren Buffett's going to be stepping down end of the year, which is crazy to think what he's been able to do with Berkshire Hathaway and his business acumen. I think one of the things that he has said that I've always enjoyed quoting is, when people are running towards something, you should be running away from it. And when people are running away from something, you should be running towards it. And that really means that, as you are, if you're really convicted about something and all of a sudden, everybody else becomes convicted about it too. If you're early, that means that you got in at a price before everybody else. And as everybody else is running into it and the price is going up, you should be either, dollar cost averaging out of it or laddering out of it or, or pull all your money out of it. Right. Because at some point, like just about everything else, as pendulums swing up and pendulums swing down with markets, that's a great investment strategy. And it's something that I have quoted often with Warren Buffett. And I feel like we're experiencing that right now with the Austin market a little bit. I mean, really, I think probably the past 12 months, I think we'll see is probably would have been the bottom of the actual market. And that's when people were running away from it. Now, obviously, with interest rates coming down into the low sixes, high fives on the residential side, on the commercial side, I'll tell you one of the things I love is, my line of credit's going from 7.5% to 7% over the past 2 months. Think about that on on $100,000, that saves you a lot of money. And so that's just, something that we'll continue to see as far as rates go and everything else is if the Fed continues to drop rates, which I believe it will, then those things are going to be great. And those are going to be things that force people, or maybe not force people, but it's going to shine a light on real estate as an investment asset or an asset class. And so I would, they said, I think it's an engineer for Berkshire Hathaway. And we'll also see kind of going forward how this works out for them. But again, like Warren Buffett said, as people are running away from it, you should run towards it. And when people are running towards it, you should run away from it. So yeah, guys, again, this is Paul Smith with 12 Rivers Realty tuning into the 12 at 12. The format of this is just kind of an ask me anything. If you guys have any questions about real estate, anything else, shout out to Selma. We got Selma in the chat. We got Joanne in the chat, or Joe. She doesn't like to be called Joanne. She always asks me. She's like, are you mad at me? Kelly's in the chat. Clarissa, guys, thanks for jumping in here, by the way. This is an ask me anything. So if you see anything that's going on within the market or anything, please feel free to hit me up. Happy to answer questions. Man, I'm looking at this now. I think the biggest news out there is, of course, Justin Timberlake's opening a restaurant in Austin, Texas, right downtown. So shout out to JT. His DJ Andrew Hypes is a good friend of mine, and be interesting to see how this does, right? Because that area right now is kind of going through a little bit of a restaurant renaissance. You've got the Kimberly, which is the same people that did Jay Carver and Red Ash. Great concept, by the way. And you're right, it's walking distance to 12 Rivers. So I feel like downtown has been taking its licks a little bit when it comes to restaurants and kind of losing out to the east side and kind of the coolness of other areas, kind of younger areas. Let's see what kind of restaurant. I wouldn't know because they didn't put a link in here for me. So we'll see. I'm sure it's probably going to be, I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend, actually. Not sure what JT's restaurant's going to be. I'll go ahead and have somebody post it in the chat as far as what that's going to go. That's just a cool headline, but really that's not going to do anything for the Austin market. I think one thing that's going to really help the Austin market is a large not Silicon Valley, but a large semiconductor chip maker has just announced that they're going to be doing a plant in Taylor area, which is going to be about 1,000 jobs. Which, guys, one thing that I want you to think about when you're looking at these companies moving to Austin and they're bringing substantial amount of jobs is that's not just 1,000 jobs that are going to be working at this plant. It's what are the other jobs that these jobs are going to spawn, right? So think about the hairdressers, the dry cleaners, the service industry, all the things that are going to help service the people that are working at these plants in Taylor. And it tends to be about 5 additional jobs per one job that's a main job versus ancillary job. And so in that case, it's not just 1,000 jobs. That's going to kick off about another 5,000 jobs. So 6,000 jobs total, which is great, right? That's just going to be more commerce coming to that area because you already have Samsung in that area. Tesla has announced, that they bought about 1,000 acres up there, so they're doing additional growth in that pocket. And so, looking at the northeast quadrant of the Austin MSA, that's going to be an area it's going to continue to grow. I think it's along the I-35 corridor. So you're going to have, and those that don't know, along the I-35 corridor, you actually have a main trunk for internet, basically, and fiber. And so that's a main area where you can connect in. So if you need data for data centers, also with that much space up there, you're going to be able to provide power for these large chip manufacturing companies. And again, it's just one more company that's announced that it's coming to this area. The interesting thing is it's not coming to Austin, right? It's coming to Taylor. It's coming to that northwest area, northeast area, not northwest area. So that northeast area up by Taylor, Hutto. I'm thinking, let's look at this 5 years, 10 years out, the amount of jobs and high paying jobs that are going to be in the northeast quadrant of the Austin MSA. It's going to be substantial. Let's see. JT's restaurant's going to be, looks like Southern food. Surprise, surprise. Be interesting if he came up with like some sort of like a New England lobster concept. He does have one. Oh, good. There it is. Look at him. Looks like it's a steakhouse, a supper club, it's speakeasy, private club is planned. Wifey says she likes it. I'm not surprised. Not surprised. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but about 20 years ago when Denise and I met, it was really me or JT, and I beat him out. So he can have Jessica Biel. I'm doing way better here. So, okay. Guys, Paul Smith at 12 at 12. The 12 at 12 Rivers, and apparently it's going to be the 12 at 12:30 is going to be at JT's private spot going forward. So after this, we're going to all be reconvening and drinking mint juleps and shrimp and grits. I don't know what other southern places have. Yeah, she said I barely eked that one out. Guys, thinking about the headlines right now, I don't know if anybody's been seeing this thing about a 50-year mortgage. God, that's a scary thing. If you guys, it was Roosevelt that came up with the 30-year mortgage. Prior to that, it was a 15-year mortgage. And I guarantee you at that time, when you were looking at the 15-year to a 30-year mortgage, people were thinking, look how long it's going to take for you to actually own your home. Right. And there's two kind of trains of thought on that. Right. One, is it about owning real estate or is it about controlling real estate? Right. In a lot of commercial developments, they'll actually do what's called interest only, where you're making a payment and you're only paying your interest. You're not paying down your principal. It's kind of what happens on a 50-year mortgage, unfortunately. And the thing is, with a 50-year mortgage, it will be so heavily front loaded in interest that, think about it, it'll take you 50 years to pay that back. So you will end up paying substantially more for that home. Which, oh, by the way, if you're 30 and you buy your first home on a 50-year mortgage, your chances are, with the average life expectancy of being at about 78 years, you will not pay this home off. Now, why would they do that? Well, if you think about, there's a couple different ways that you can help increase mortgage values, right, or property values. And a couple different ways of that is, one, looking at payment. So if you have a lower payment, that means that people can pay more for the property. Or two, if you lower interest rates, right, or if the values come down. And I think what they're thinking right now is that we're kind of peaking at on a national level some things happening within the real estate market that could be scary for a lot of people. It's the same thing that we've been going through in Austin the last 2 years. From 22 to 23, we had a decline in values. From 23 to 24, we had a larger decline in values. From 24 to 25, pretty flat, right? But I think what you're going to see now is you're going to start to see other parts of the US start to take those lumps like we just took. And a lot of that is a correction, right? It's a correction from the pandemic and the amount of people that moved here. Um, but I did a chart with a 10-year rolling average, and Austin historically has appreciated 5.7% a year since the 70s. And if you look at kind of that pendulum as it swung way out of whack in late 2021, early 22, to now kind of the downtime of second half of 22, 23, 24, we're actually now back on that same curve of basically going up at right at 5%, 5.6%. And so we are back on track to where we've always been historically. If you were to go back over the past 10 years, even the past 5 years, where we're at comparatively to where we started in 2019 to where we're at now. I think that's healthy. I think that's good. I think, Austin has never been known as one of those markets that just spikes crazy like your LA markets, like your California markets. And it did happen. And I think the other thing too is what we're seeing now is people are looking at Central Texas, not just Austin, as a place to move. And you're starting to see other cool things kind of pop up and happen around the Central Texas area. One of those is Lockhart. And those that don't know, Lockhart has quickly become a creative hub that has a centralized square, and the folks that live there are really doing a good job of creating different events that help display the local entrepreneurs that are in the Lockhart market. And also, you're seeing now the lag of now the money that's coming into Lockhart. Because when you get the cool piece, right? You get a bunch of people that move in, you create the community, and then at the same time, you start to see the money come in, right? You're starting to see the larger scale communities that get built out. And unfortunately, at some point, this is the arc of just about everything that's cool. Is then a substantial amount of money comes in, and then it jumps the shark, and then that's just kind of the evolution and lifestyle kind of arc of kind of all things cool. Think about it with festivals that happens. It's probably already happened. It sounds like we're Burning Man at this point. Some could say ACL has certainly jumped the shark from when they started out as being something cool that happened in Zilker Park to then gets big, and then Live Nation comes in, and then it feels like you're basically going to a festival at Disney World. It just happens to be in our backyard, but everything starts to feel the same at that point, right? And right now, Lockhart is kind of going through that renaissance of being the cool kind of hip community in Austin. Not too off of what the East Side was probably 10 years ago. Neat thing is that it's only about a 25-minute drive from downtown Austin, right down 183. Clear, so you got something?
Oh, I just didn't realize it was that close.
Yeah, it's close. It's right down 183, so it's nice. And the square is great. It's really cute, actually. Got a couple different friends that have restaurants there. Shout out to Joe, who's in here, but she started one of the partners in barbecue, which is getting crazy accolades right now. So shout out to them. My old operations director Lindsay has a place called Thorn and Bread. So guys, go give a shout out to them if you guys are down in that area. They're all doing really cool things, and so when you have that cool factor, everybody wants to be around it. And I think at some point, to some extent, you'll start to see that with Taylor as well. You'll start to see that with Hutto, where now you're starting to have the jobs come in. Once you have the infrastructure and the jobs, then you'll start to have the community and everything else. And look, people need a place to eat. People need a place to sleep, all those things. I think one of the interesting things in those areas is that there's so much land that you're not necessarily going to see a huge price spike over time, because builders are able to continue to add inventory, right? So if you think about supply and demand and why Austin prices really kind of shot up crazy is unfortunately, fortunately, but unfortunately, depending on if you own land versus not, is the city of Austin makes it fairly hard to develop. And they put a lot of red tape, they put a lot of fees attached to permits and everything else that you don't have in other counties, other cities. And so if you make it hard to deliver new inventory, you're putting a restraint on the ability to deliver new inventory. So now all of a sudden supply and demand gets a little out of whack. Well, all of a sudden that's going to mean that prices are going to go up. Again, if you're only able to deliver 5 homes and you have 10 buyers, then just by the nature of that, you're going to have prices that are going to go up at that point. Well, in an area like Taylor, you can deliver 1,000 home subdivision. There's enough land out there where you can do that. And if you have 1,000 buyers and 1,000 homes and you're able to deliver that, your prices are going to go up with inflation. Your prices are going to continue to go up, but they're not going to go up in an area where it's going to spike. Other thought on that too is if you're looking at buying in an area like that, that's new construction, I always want to say that I want to buy where they can't make more of it. And so in that case, if I'm buying in an area where the subdivision is about to be built out, typically once the builder's out of a subdivision, you'll see a price spike. So if you're looking at buying new construction, ask the builder, how many more lots do you guys have in here, and what's the time frame as far as a sellout goes? Is the very few times that I've had clients have to write a check when they sell a home. Majority of those times is when they bought something new construction from, let's say, a D.R. Horton or Taylor Morrison, and then they have to go ahead and sell it, let's say, within a year. That D.R. Horton or Taylor Morrison are still selling homes in that subdivision because it's real tough when you're a resale home to go up against new construction. They're able to add so many more incentives and make it just significantly more enticing. So if you are looking at buying in a neighborhood like that, what I would suggest, one good question is, how many homes do you guys have left and when will you be built out? And if it's something where you're going to be in this property for 10 years, it probably doesn't matter. But if it's something where, life happens, a lot of times where this has been cases, these situations have been where somebody buys and then I get a call 6 months later and being like, oh, we're getting a divorce, stuff like that. Not great. Guys, again, this is Paul Smith with 12 Rivers Realty. You're tuning into the 12 at 12. Let me know if y'all have any questions, by the way. Crazy to say that Tesla shareholders overwhelmingly approve $1 trillion pay package for Elon Musk. I read about this and I was like, man, this guy kind of just made sense. Like I feel like he kind of broke it down where it's like why it makes sense for him to have that trillion versus somebody else in the why. And it's interesting because it's like you see all the cool things that he's doing, and then you start talking about the whole like humanoid, like robot situation and how everybody's going to have a robot companion at some point. Not like that. You know what I mean? Like a robot assistant, maybe a companion. Hey, look, if you're a robot out there, call me. Denise and I have been talking about, getting a robot companion. Just sounds weird, right? It just sounds so weird to say, but it's probably pretty close, pretty close to a thing, I guess. That obviously that's the future. I think we're a lot closer to iRobot than we thought we were. Some people might be closer to iHeartRobot, which is an interesting thought as well. $1 trillion. That's just that's a lot of money. And shout out to him for being able to be such a good salesman that I was like, yeah, I'd give it to him. Like, sure. He's like, it makes sense versus, him having, say, 25% control of this company, which is like just enough for him to not be ousted, but also just enough so that investors are like, okay, he doesn't have too much of it. And if he goes off his rocker, which always possible with him, you just never know. But what a shout out to him for being able to do that. Government shutdown. I think it's still a thing. It's supposed to end today. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see who caved, who didn't cave. What's the reason behind it? I read. That's good. Trump supporting it. I don't know if that is good, but at least it'll be done, right? And so,
With back pay.
good. They look. I mean, everybody should be. If you worked, you should get back pay for sure. Should even if you didn't work and you worked for the government, you should get back pay. One of the reasons why I think people work for the government is for security, and to think that over the past however many years, let's call it 10 years, there's been more government shutdowns where they haven't paid their people, more so than a local entrepreneur or somebody. That's hard to believe, crazy to believe, but hopefully it gets figured out, especially with Thanksgiving coming up. Could you imagine if this went into Thanksgiving where people wouldn't have money for, God, dude, the people get lambasted basically. Oh, let's see. Guys, again, it's the 12 at 12. Let's see. I go out there the week and I kind of take these notes. And then I just wanted to talk about them on here. There's one thing I want to talk about is as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I think it's important to have that, like, think about yourself as a creator in some way, and hopefully it's a creator in a way in which where you can create community, and that can be whatever. I mean, community is such a broad word, and a creator is such a broad word, and so kind of whatever that means to you. But as you're kind of going out there, especially if you are in a service business or you are providing some sort of a service as a company, find your community. And as you're kind of looking for that community, you can be like, okay, some questions that you could ask yourself is, what do I enjoy doing? Right? Are the things that I enjoy doing, can that be, is there some level of a Venn diagram of I enjoy things that I enjoy doing in things I enjoy doing with people that could potentially be clients of mine, right? That way there, you're doing things that you're enjoying, that's filling up your cup while potentially meeting or networking with people that will eventually become part of your community. And then the other thing I want you to ask yourself is, am I going to be somebody that is going to create that community, or am I a creator, or am I a contributor in this community, right? So am I going to create, or am I going to contribute? And then the third one is like, okay, if I'm not creating or contributing, then I'm just here. So then why am I here, right? What's the why on that? You don't have to be a creator or a contributor. Having people that have a good attitude and just enjoy being there are also great to have around as well. But either way, what are the things that you enjoy doing, and really finding that community for you? And again, that could be anything. And then the other topic that I wanted to talk about real quickly, is we only got a couple minutes, is, guys, I think that as business kind of evolves and we're kind of coming into the world of AI, and half the time I get calls, I'm actually wondering if it's AI. Honestly, I'm like, are you AI? Are you not AI? Think about this, like as a business owner, you either have to kind of go towards that old school kind of like thank you style business, where you are handwriting cards, you are reaching out to people, not via text, but on the phone, and saying, thank you for your business. If you haven't talked to somebody in a while, but you did business with them a couple of years ago, reach out to them and just say, man, it's been a minute since we spoke. How's it going? How's the property? Hopefully they didn't say that they sold it without you, but if they did, that's an opportunity for you to re-engage there. Because ideally, if you're going the route of thank you in a business that's run off of thank you, if you had a successful transaction with somebody, you should certainly be following up with those people, or go the other way with it, where now it's a numbers game. And if it's a numbers game, then you've got automations and everything else that are reaching out to these people, getting them into your funnel and going that way. But I would say, guys, I think you can run the risk of trying to do both not well, right? But I think you can be very successful if you do either or very well. But that's going to be a thing where that's going to be up to you and your personality, and kind of where you want to live within business and entrepreneurship, and really what's going to be the thing that drives you forward and makes you want to wake up and be like, man, this doesn't feel like a job. This feels like a good decision. As you get, this is Paul Smith with the 12 at 12. That's our time today. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit me up.